It was the spring of 1994, I believe it was April, and I found everything in this frame over the course of 2 days in a farmer's field in East Tennessee. Hey, folks, and welcome to the shop. This is a series where we just hang out here in the shop and talk about stuff I've collected over the years. I'm not an expert on anything, but I, try to find out as much as I can about the stuff that I like. And most time we talk about fishing equipment, and Lord knows I got plenty of that, and we'll do a whole lot more of that coming up. But today, on this rainy day, I thought we'd talk about arrowheads. Have you ever found an arrowhead? A lot of times people find them by accident, and I found some by accident too, but I go out and look for them on purpose. And here's some more that I've got out here in the shop. And I've got, a couple of thousand more in the house because I grew up in a very artifact-rich part of the country in East Tennessee, and we were kicking arrowheads around, even mini balls and stuff too, when I was a kid and didn't know no better, didn't even know what they were, but we held on to them. And my dad collected them, and my best friends, Curtis Seals, he has a sister collection to mine, or still has, probably his wife has it now, he's passed on, but sister collection to my collection. So I wanted to tell you about this one particular incident and about this frame, and I've kept all these artifacts together because I think there's some historical significance there. But anyway, April 1994. And there was this farm that I had arrowhead hunted on quite a bit ever since I was a kid. I knew the family who lived there, went to school with one of the boys, and we'd go out there and we'd find an arrowhead or two every time we went out. Not a whole lot, but we knew it was an artifact-rich area. He moved on. My friend moved on. The father died, and the mother got sick, and so she put the farm up for sale. Well, the people that bought it was this big industrial agriculture company out of Florida. In fact, in Florida, they grew sugar cane. And if you know anything about that Florida sugar cane industry, you probably know what environmental disasters they've created down there in Florida to the Everglades and to the coast, and it's just been terrible. And it wasn't much better in East Tennessee either. Well, the plan was to grow tomatoes. That part of the country had started growing tomatoes quite a bit because we had the tobacco buyout. They bought everybody's tobacco allotment out, so nobody was growing tobacco anymore. So a lot of people replaced it with tomatoes, and they make pretty good tomatoes. Granger County especially is famous for their tomatoes. If you ever come across any East Tennessee tomatoes, try them because that soil makes good tomatoes. So anyway, this company brought in the biggest earth-moving equipment I've ever seen. I mean, great big tractors with, 8 wheels and earth-moving equipment like you've never seen before. And they plowed those fields down, and this was probably a 1,000-acre field. They plowed it down deeper than it's ever been plowed before. I don't know how deep, but it was, probably 3 or 4 feet deeper than it's ever been before. And then they disced it up, and they was getting ready to plant, and that's when the storm hit. And it was a huge storm. It rained for 4 days and 4 nights. And the Old Chucky River come right up out of its banks and flooded that field and everything else around it, and it washed all the topsoil completely off, just washed it away downstream. So now we've got an environmental problem too, right? Well, they eventually, I don't know how they did it. They were able to bring those fields back, and they're producing again. But I have been keeping up with it. I knew that they had just plowed the fields because I like to arrowhead hunt in the spring, and I keep up when they plow the fields. And I knew they had plowed the fields, and I knew it flooded. So just as soon as the water went down, I got on my hip boots and went out there and waded through the mud until I got to, the field, got out there to where we'd been finding the arrowheads, and it wasn't muddy anymore. The ground was really hard packed. It had all the topsoil was gone, so it was right down to the clay. And that's where I saw one of the most amazing sights that I've ever seen. It looked like the Native American people who had lived there had just moved out, literally. There were fire pits with fire-cracked rocks scattered here and there. There were post moles arranged in a circle, holes in the ground arranged in circles where they built their houses. They put poles in and bend them up on the top and then thatch around it, and that's how they made their houses. You could see the remains of a boulevard look like it went right down through the middle of it. And even in those fire pits, you could see little pieces of charcoal. I mean, it really did look like they just left. So, oh my goodness, I got so excited. And of course, I started finding stuff. And the first thing I was finding was pieces of pottery, and they were everywhere. And I took, a great big basket full. I've kept some of them. I'll show you in this frame here in a minute. Kept the more intricate ones, and lots of arrowheads, mostly small triangular shaped arrowheads. And so I believe the people who lived there, the remains of that village that I've seen, was probably one of the later, archaeological periods that they divide Native American existence up into. So probably, 2,500 years old or something. So still real old, but not as old as, some of the stuff you find. It can be a lot older than that. But I got excited and went back home, and the first thing I did was call the University of Tennessee Archaeology Department, and somebody answered the phone, and I told her what was going on. She said, "Hold on a minute," and she put the head archaeologist on there. His name was Dr. Chapman, and so I told him what was going on, and he sounded real interested in it. But when it was all said and done, he gave me some bad news. He said, "Sean," he said, "I wish there was something I could do, but frankly, if we decided to go out there and do a survey, then we probably need a court order, because those people are not going to want us to come out there and get in their fields and hold up their planting, and they probably wouldn't even be able to put out tomatoes this year." And the other thing is, we just don't have the money to do it. There's no money. A lot of these archaeology projects that you hear about, it's because of a highway being built or a bridge or a building or something, and they have to do those surveys to make sure there's nothing historically significant. But in a farmer's field, there's no money for it. So that was kind of sad. But anyway, I got the family, and we went back out there, and I took a video camera, and somewhere I got a VHS tape of it. I need to find that. But the kids loved it, of course. And then so we found some more arrowheads and more pottery. And then I took them back home, and I got my sleeping bag and went back out there. And this time there was somebody up at the barn, and I talked to him. He was the foreman. He had sent all the migrant workers home for the day, and he said he didn't care if I went out there, so I did. And I spent the night. Well, I don't know if I believe in ghosts or not, but if I did believe in ghosts, I seen them that night. It was one of the most amazing nights I've ever spent. I didn't sleep too much. I heard things I've never heard, and I saw things that I've never seen before. And it was really a life-changing experience, and I won't bore you with all that, but it was very interesting. And so I woke up the next morning to the sound of earth-moving equipment. And here they came, lined up, all that heavy equipment again, heading right back out there. So before they got there, I kicked around, found a few more things, and show you some of the stuff that I found. So these are all rims of pottery bowls, and they're very intricately designed, and I thought that's pretty interesting. Here's those arrowheads I was telling you about. This is just goose feathers. Some more over here, but there's a doubly terminated quartz crystal there. I don't know if you can see it, and the light's not too good in here right now. But those quartz crystals are native to East Tennessee, but you find a lot more of them in Native American sites. So I believe they had some significance to them. This is a game stone, something they would use to play games. And some more pottery pieces here. That's a cup handle. There's another cup handle over here. But here's a piece I especially wanted to tell you about. So if you look on there, you see some carving. And if what's carved in there, it might be a spider. It might be a water spider. But I believe it's a turtle. And so that would have been just a small cup. You can tell by the, by how it's rounded there that it's not going to be a big bowl like some of these would be great big bowls. That would have been small. And so when I found it, I really liked it, and I picked it up and looked at it, and then I turned it over, and what I saw on the back almost dropped me to my knees. There was a child's fingerprint. So I don't know if maybe a kid made it. Maybe it was, maybe it was like a sippy bowl or something, or a cup. But there was a kid's fingerprint on the back, and it just sort of humanized the whole experience to me. It brought it all home that there was this kid, and he had a cup with a turtle on it, and lived at that place. And I thought that was significant. There's a lot of artifacts right around here in the Chesapeake. I live on the land of the Mattapeaks. Mattapeaks were Algonquin people. There also the Nanticokes live not too far from here, and you'll still find some artifacts out there if you go out and look. When the tide's low, you can get out and walk the bank, as long as you're not trespassing on anybody's property. Stay below the tide line, you're legal, and so you can look for stuff. They dredge up some amazing artifacts, both historic and prehistoric, with the clam dredgers and guys looking for oysters and stuff. They dredge up some pretty amazing stuff. So it's a very history-rich region that we live in right here, and I like to get out. I like to fish, and you can't fish all the time. Sometimes on a slack tide or when the fish aren't biting, I'll get out and walk the banks and find some arrowheads every once in a while. It's just a fun thing to do, and I've done it all my life, and I'll probably still do it. And I bet you'd enjoy it too if you got out there and do it. Plus, we got a lot of fossils around this area too, which makes it even more interesting. So that's my story today. Thank you for tuning in. Your likes and shares are very much appreciated. And also, if you hadn't subscribed, I hope you will. Tune in next time. We're going to talk more about some fishing stuff. Goodness knows we've got plenty to talk about. Thanks for visiting the shop.